man, being a football coach is it's a lonely profession, unfortunately, because like this is the person that I want to be. This is the life I want to live. I probably had roughly 1,000 junior players while I was coaching the juniors. And I mean, that's just such a big responsibility of how many lives you can touch on a regular basis. And I mean, I had a mom walk up to me and it's like,
Today's podcast is with Jonny Brenner. Jonny is a former football player and current coach. He played much of his career with the SHA Unicorns as a wide receiver, winning German Bowls and also winning the European Championship with Germany's national team. Jonny has 2 decades of coaching experience, ranging from 10 to 11-year-olds playing flag football all the way up to seniors such as myself at age 30. In 2016, he led the Unicorns U19 to a Junior Bowl championship. And the following year, he became the defensive coordinator of the Unicorns senior team, where over the next 7 years, he helped the Unicorns have one of the best defenses in Europe, winning 3 German Bowls during that time. For the 2023 season, Jonny has joined longtime collaborator Jordan Newman and become the defensive coordinator for the Stuttgart Surge of the European League of Football, hoping to help turn that team around for a successful year this season. I was lucky enough to play defense for Jonny these last 6 years on the SHA Unicorns. I learned so much from him, both on and off the field, and we had a great conversation. So without further ado, Jonny Brenner.
Coach Jonny Brenner, my former coach.
Nick, my former player, the legend.
Good to see you, Coach. Thanks for coming by this early. For those who can't tell, we're early morning podcasting right now. And we'll get into some more of like kind of your background with football and everything. But I do like to start off with some more hard-hitting, deep questions.
Here we go.
So the first thing that I want to know is, what is the most difficult thing about being a football coach?
That is a good and a tough question.
That's why I prepared it.
How I know you. Hard-hitting right off the bat. I think the toughest one, I can speak just for me personally. At a point in my life, I thought, man, being a football coach is it's a lonely profession, unfortunately, because you're always in between. You can't be everyone's darling. There's always going to be something. It doesn't matter how big you win or how big you lose. There's always going to be something, and it's really tough to always come out on top. And like especially with preparation and everything you put in, at some point you think, well, I can't do more than I'm already doing, but it's tough to find that stop for yourself and how to protect yourself to say, hey, that's enough. And players got to win the game. You, as a coach, you can only do so much. And I said in an earlier interview that, like, I'm nervous till kickoff, and then I know the players are going to take care of it. And it's just to the fact that I know till kickoff there may be still something I needed to be doing to get the players in the best position to have the best chance to win. And then once the game's going, then obviously you're going to make your adjustments and your calls. But I mean, I'll trust my preparation and the staff around me to make the right decisions, and then it's going to take care of itself. But I mean, the tough part then is everyone congratulate each other after the game, and then you start asking yourself, what's next for you? And then you just got to be careful that you don't fall into the trap of just, okay, this one's done, let's move on to the next one. And because it kind of takes takes out the joy of winning.
Yeah.
And it's still a game. It's still supposed to be fun. And at some point, it wasn't, that much fun for me anymore. And so I had to kind of reset. And now I just enjoy being around the guys, being around football overall. I still think it's the greatest sport on this planet. And I just enjoy every day of doing it.
Nice. I was going to ask, because you're a former player, like being a former player and having control once the game starts as a player, you go out on the field, you execute. If you mess up on a play, you have the next play. But as a coach, you of course would make the in-game adjustments, but your control is in the preparation. Do you think that being a former player and once having that control in the game, and being able to make those adjustments on field as a player makes it more difficult as a coach to see something that you could adjust as a player, and you're like, just do it like this. This is how I would do it. Do you think does that come into play at all?
I can totally relate, but I was a terrible player to start out with. So
this is a lie. Fact check.
So I mean, and even as a player, I had to really make sure I'll focus on the things that I can control, because especially being a receiver, I mean, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to run my route or I'm going to block, but depending on the coverage or the progression, my chances are either better or not as good to get the ball thrown to. But still, you're part of the team, and I would think your value is not necessarily determined by your production. Your role on the team may not be measured in production. You may have a totally different value that's not measured in numbers. And on the coaching side of it, I've been coaching since 2001, so at the start of the millennium.
Jeez.
Oh gosh.
That's 22 years.
And there's been quite a change, and I've been told multiple times, and it's like, man, Johnny, you've gotten soft, and that's totally fine, because I mean, I probably would have hated myself as a player, like in my early coaching years, but I mean, that was just when I came back from high school football in the States, and I did have a pretty good coach that was pretty high on discipline, and also back then it wasn't, like you would jump on YouTube and, hey, how does an RPO work?
Yeah.
Or like, how do the pros do it? It's like, I think I even borrowed a VHS
old school
back then, how to run the veer option. I may still have it, but maybe I should send it back at some point.
Send it back. Somebody needs that VHS.
Yeah. But that were just the tools you had, how to educate yourself as far as football goes, and so I kept every little scrap of newspaper in a box and brought that home with me. And then also thought, once I started coaching with the Flaggies, I was like, hey, I know a little more than you may know at this point, and I know something that teams weren't able to stop, so we got to do this. And that's kind of what the cycle was in my early coaching years.
Yeah.
It's just picking up on some things that I personally haven't known yet, and then I thought, hey man, this is the answer for everything. And then the discipline part of it, I mean, I started doing karate like when I was when I was 8-year-old or so.
Okay, I didn't know this. Okay.
So I was pretty young, and what it helped me the most with was probably keeping my discipline and just being disciplined with, going to practice, being on time, taking care of your gear, always have your suit ironed and like getting your feet washed, just little things like that. And but there would be like 50, 60 kids in the gym, and we would just do our techniques up and down the gym for 2 hours, and then the sensei would walk over and it's like, hey, that arm's supposed to be like that, not like this. And it's like, okay, sorry. It's like, okay, let's do it again.
So, okay, this is interesting because you've always been, for me, a great example of attention to detail, discipline, and preparation. And I'm wondering then, were you always having these attributes, or like you said, from a young age, did karate help instill those in you, or did you sort of have these characteristics and then have them amplified by karate, or did this really send you off on this path of discipline and detail?
That's interesting because I haven't looked at it that way.
Yeah.
I mean, growing up in a house with 7 people, there needed to be some discipline in order to take care of a normal life.
Yeah, I know this.
And I mean, in English, you probably say clear mind, or a clear desk, clear mind.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
Right? Yep. And that's kind of what I always went through. Like before I'd done my homework, I was always making sure there's nothing on my desk that could distract me. Now, the clearing the desk could take a little longer than my parents would like that to happen. But I mean, to this day, I still keep that note. That discipline creates miracles. I'll just keep that note with me because I'm a true believer in that if you have the will to do something, then you're able to achieve it. Yeah. And but you can't just wish for it. You got to work for it. And that's basically what was installed in me, or that I grew up with, maybe through karate. Also played the piano, which, you had to train.
Yep, I know.
Practice.
Yep.
I wasn't the best with that, and I figured every way to cheat the clock to get off of the piano chair.
That's exactly what I would do too. Well, we have a lot of similarities, Johnny.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, we still had a clock that you could rotate the clock and the minutes forward, and then and then I'll play one song, and then there would be a break to where I would switch to sheets, and then I would just couple minutes less, and then my mom came back. It's like, oh, that can't be right. It was like, oh,
that is hilarious.
But that was probably when I was 8 or something. Little kid. So yeah, and then I mean, it just always stuck with me because I thought it's always my fallback with something I want. If I can work for something. If I want something, it's supposed to be hard to get. Like if it's easy to get, it's not rewarding. And I always felt like if I need to work for something that I really want, I can get it. And if that was a Nintendo something, and I got €1 a week, and it was 300 euros, so I was like, okay. Save that euro there. I'm gonna 300 in 300 weeks.
What is that? 6 years? Then I'll get it. That is impressive discipline.
But on my birthday, I'll get 10 extra. So that'll cut down that many weeks.
Discipline.
But yeah, going back to football.
Yeah, that's fascinating. This is fascinating to hear. Kind of the. the background and kind of the motivation of your discipline and what it's been like. It's being a player for you for 6 years has been so apparent and clear, and something that I think has rubbed off on me and been very inspiring. But to see kind of the thinking behind it and how much sense it makes, and now I've seen it now in my own life of the same thing that you said is like, if you want something, it should be hard to get. Otherwise, it's not worth it. If it's not hard to get, then it's not valuable. And the way that you can get that is through discipline and consistency. And they say that like motivation or discipline is better than motivation, because you're not going to be motivated
100%.
all the time. But if you can stay disciplined to do the right shit, even when you're not motivated.
I heard someone say that.
Yeah. I can't remember. It must have been like Jocko Willink or something.
Yeah, and maybe I was trying to push that message too hard too early as a coach, and especially I was dealing with 12, 13-year-old kids. But, I mean, I was exposed to being around disciplined people, earlier than that. Yeah. But I guess it's not for everyone, which is fine. I mean, the motivation to me is an emotional state. Like, everyone's emotional to do something. Like, the idea just popped up.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Mm-hmm. But if you have to work for it for a longer period of time, then the motivation drops.
Absolutely.
And that's when the discipline kicks in. And that's why I believe deep down that in order to create miracles or you can achieve anything, you need discipline. And that's why we changed the Motivation Mondays to the Miracle Mondays.
Love that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. I love that.
But also, just to finish up on the discipline, I think, especially for kids, I think it also gives them a clear frame of reference, like what's okay and what's not.
Yeah.
And now all the parents here on the pod are about to stone me alive, but
good values.
I mean, just observing my surroundings, sometimes a little more discipline would be helpful, just making life easier for everyone.
Oh, yeah.
Because, just having a set, clear rules, set in stone.
Yeah.
So everyone knows, hey, this is not okay and this is okay. And I think if the borders are too gray, then it just makes it tough for everyone. And I think, former players, they always say, man, you've coached us so hard and you were so disciplined with us, but thank you for it. And
100%.
I mean, it's like, you're not going to be everyone's darling with that because there's just different style of learners, there's different types of players, and it's a game, it's supposed to be fun, but if you just see discipline as something negative, it doesn't need to be something negative.
No.
And it can be actually something real positive, because I mean, if you have the discipline to do something, it's the fact that you're disciplined is already rewarding. So you're not relying on somebody from outside giving you something. So you can reward yourself by just being able to keep that discipline. And I'm hoping till today there's some kids I was able to give them that message.
Yeah, that's a great thing. That's a great point right there you just made. Even if you set out to do something and you decide to be disciplined about it, even if the thing takes a year to get, or maybe you don't get it, but you're disciplined, you achieve the skill of discipline, and it's something that you now have. And like you said, it's not from an outside thing, but it's from you. I love that. I wanted to ask you, you have coached football at different levels. Like you mentioned, the young kids, the flaggies, the 11, 12, 13-year-olds. When we first met in 2016, you were coaching the U19. Then the next year, you started coaching the senior team, my team. Is there any difference in approach for you when you're coaching the different ages? Or do you approach it all the same way? And the kids are going to get the same message and coaching as the 25-year-olds.
I mean, I've always tried to coach more than just football, because football was always a tool for me to have an impact on my surroundings. And like if I look back, and I mean, I probably had roughly 1,000 junior players while I was coaching the juniors. And I mean, that's just such a big responsibility of how many lives you can touch on a regular basis. And I mean, I had a mom walk up to me and it's like, it doesn't matter what I say at home, but if Jonny Brenner says I gotta help clean out the dishwasher, he's gonna be the first one to clean out the dishwasher. So, and that was really good to know, just to see that it's so much more than just a game. Mm-hmm. And we had the complete player challenge back then, and it just had a little checklist of what people had to do to be a complete player. And there's nothing on there with, like, maybe there's one lift weights or something, do how many push-ups a day, blah blah blah. But it was like, hey, make sure you give some to your mother on Mother's Day, help out clean the dishwasher, take the trash out, make sure you do your homework or something like that. And it was just more than, I always want to make sure that players that play football, especially here in Schwäbisch Hall, small town, they're going to be identified as football players. And I just want to make sure that the football players are like the guys, and
upstanding members of society.
Yes, and that's kind of what I learned in the States as well. Is they were always the ones leading the charge with helping in the society and helping out in the community, and I really enjoy that because where do you get a chance to do something like that at that age? And so I was always trying to push that message, to do some more than just play a game.
Right.
I mean, not to take anything away from the game. The game is the most physical, aggressive, complicated, tactical, analytic.
Best in every category.
The best.
Give it every adjective.
It's just the best, But as a coach, I've been trying to use it as well, just to help everyone develop as a person as well. And I mean, and then from the football standpoint, you just got to see, like, you can't overcoach the game. That's what you hear a lot.
Yep.
And then obviously, if you have good players, you're a lot better coach. So that's why it was good having you. Yeah.
I don't know if I believe that.
100%. You should believe that.
Thanks, Coach. So you talked about basically being a coach. You coached for the coached and played for the SHA Unicorns for so long. Were such a impact on so many people's lives. Young people, older people, myself, my friends, my teammates in the SHA community, kids and people playing for the Unicorns. And now you have taken on a new challenge, and you are coaching for the Stuttgart Surge in the European League of Football. And talk to me a little bit about how you feel about that move. Maybe what were some of the motivations behind it, and how's it going so far?
Well, like you said, it's a new challenge. It's new people.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, outside Coach Newman and Coach Pastorino, I mean, those two I would do anything for, and I'm just feel blessed every day to be able to work with them, and I think they're the best ones that I've gotten to know. I know there's every coach is going to have their father figure or their idol to look up to, but yeah, I just appreciate those two guys so much, and so I'm really glad we can do this together, and yeah, and it's been a lot of fun. I mean, I've had so much fun like I haven't had in a long time, I'd say. And obviously we have good players, and like I just said, I mean, if you have good players, you makes coaching a lot easier.
I'm not saying, the players I had before were terrible. Don't.
Wait a second.
Don't.
I got you.
No. But it's fun, and we really haven't found our rhythm 100% yet, which is fine. Like, it's good. We don't have to play a game tomorrow, but you can see the progress on the football field, outside of the football field, getting to know each other, growing together as a team, and so that's looking all really promising, and looking forward to what's coming. And hope to. It's
like, I'm super excited about it. I've been to a good amount of Surge practices so far, like the Friday, Saturday OTAs, and we'll go tomorrow again. And I've just been pretty, like, not to hype it up too much, but like the energy and sharpness of what is essentially a new team, like piecing together a new coaching staff with all these new players. And the cohesiveness and energy and sharpness of the practices and trainings so far has been super. It feels, I don't know, I don't want to say it feels like mid-season vibes, but it feels like it's off to a very good start. Would you agree? Or are you always
I partly agree.
What needs to be improved?
That sounds like an interesting statement. I agree. The excitement and the energy has been really good for the most part.
Yep.
Now we've had our lump.
Sure.
Which was a outstanding learning experience for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's not always going to be new, exciting. Everyone around me is going to be hyped up.
Right.
I mean, and that's going to be the same on all youth levels, on any team, any league. You got to bring your own.
Yeah. Oof, I like that.
I mean, you don't want to wait around and have someone cheer you on to get going. I mean, you better bring it. We had to learn that the hard way. Wasted a half a practice, but that's also what these OTAs are for. Right. Kind of getting to know each other, and also like, what drives you, what gets you going, who needs a little more attention.
Attention, that's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
But I like what you said there, and you used to say this to us over the years all the time, is don't wait around for somebody else to hype you up and bring the energy. Be the guy. Bring it yourself. And that, I think you could take that into so many aspects of life, like off the field, in 100%, everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Be proactive. That's the thing or the path that you can't cheat is you still need to bring it. Yeah. It doesn't matter if it's new, old, if somebody's watching or not, you just got to bring it. Mm-hmm. And on defense, even more than on any other part of the team.
Yeah, on defense, we got to
As long as I'm the DC, at least.
If you're playing in a Johnny Brenner defense, you better fucking bring it. This I learned.
It's just an attitude. I was saying, once you're emotionally ready to play the game, you play a lot better. I mean, that's scientifically proven. I'm not trying to make anyone, being out of their comfort zone. I'm just trying to put everyone in the best position.
That's right.
To be successful. And at the end of the day, it's like, it would be hard for me to look in the mirror and and have a player tell me, Coach, you let me waste 2 years of my life by half-assing this. And so I would just want to make sure our players reach their max potential. And if that means that I need to be harder on them, then I'll just be harder on them.
Yeah, that's
And I can always back off.
You can always back off. So would you like?
In theory.
Yeah, in theory, theoretically, we'll see if that. It seems like now I feel like I am getting a sense of your motivation for being a coach. Of course, you love football, every aspect of football, but it seems like you are so much even more motivated to help develop people as people as a whole, as young men, growing up and fitting into themselves. Would you say that this is a big part of your coaching motivation, is the kind of stuff you can instill in people off the field as well?
Oh, yeah, 100%, because I think not a lot of people get that opportunity. And I've been growing up in a household, in a family with a lot of teachers. And I think teachers are such a big, vital part of our society because they just have spent just so much time with the kids on a almost daily basis. And I think even nowadays, it's probably even more than back then. It's just so much more than about math.
Yeah,
It's so much more about than poetry or. But you also get to see some of the things other parents don't get to see.
right.
You see kids coming to school with no breakfast. You can tell they haven't showered in days. Obviously some of the kids need help that you maybe can't give them as a teacher, like within your toolbox,
Right.
or within your frame of how to deal with certain situations. And obviously there's not enough teachers for all these students and the problems to get them solved, and that's hard to deal with sometimes. To know that you're doing a job that we could do a better job with, but you still have to do it. And that's just finding the fine line of, what can I do to help most of the kids, or how can I offer help to the ones that need it, and also try to help the super good kids, because there's super good students,
Right.
that you don't want them to get bored, but you don't want to reward them like extra work or something.
Right.
It's like, hey, you're done, awesome, do this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a very tough profession to also find a switch to shut off.
Right. Yeah.
Because I've been growing up with like people telling my parents like, you just work in the morning, and then in the afternoon you got free time, and then you got 6 weeks of summer vacation and blah blah blah. And I don't want to downgrade anyone that works a job from 8 to 5.
Right.
And but I think it's just so different, just dealing with people and making daily decisions that have such a span of, like, it makes decisions for the rest of their lives.
Right. It has such
Like
an
so
effect.
many of us remember like their most favorite teacher or their least favorite teacher.
Yeah.
like there's maybe one situation where you had to get up on the blackboard
Back then.
and you just got embarrassed.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And that's why you hated school. But also you might remember, some teacher did something nice to you, gave you a hug,
Yeah.
which you're not supposed to do anymore. I mean, but it was the thing that you needed back then to now all of a sudden love school.
Right.
And it set you up for being a great employee now in your adult life. So I think that's just a very important but tough job.
Yeah, but it just makes so much sense. Have you seen this from your family? The impact and effect that you can have on people for life with that profession, and then also similarly to coaching, you can have this.
Yeah.
You've mentioned a couple times, and growing up in a big family. We've both grown up in big families, 7 people, 8 people, mostly boys, right?
Yep.
Mostly boys. What are some things that you learned from growing up in such a big athletic family?
Yeah, so both of my parents are teachers, and I have an older sister and an older brother, and I'm the sandwich kid, and I have 2 younger brothers. And I'm also like right in the middle age-wise.
Right.
I mean, it just took me a long time, or it just realized like later on, once I was an adult, what different roles there are in such a big family. Yeah. And like my oldest brother, Chris, he was always my role model, and he basically did everything. Like everything he did was like, oh, that's how you got to do it. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you want to be successful, if you want to be loved, if you want to be anything, just do it like Chris. And that wasn't always easy. I mean, it seems like, you need a role model to kind of that shapes you. And I mean, I was super lucky, blessed, and shout out to Chris. I mean, he's the best oldest brother I could wish for. But it took me some time to also, find my own path within that. Mm. And I guess, for him, that role, to be the oldest brother, the perfect older brother, it also comes with a lot of responsibility. Right. And then obviously my 2 younger brothers, Chris was more a basketball guy, so I also started playing basketball when I was younger. And but I celebrated that when I started doing karate, he started doing karate. It's like, man,
that's cool.
That's how it like. I started something, now you do it as well. And like, back then, as an 8-year-old, I was like, oh man, this is awesome. I was so proud, and and I think I was always a belt in front of him, and it's like, hey, I could teach you.
Yeah, you could teach the older brother.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, he was also a really disciplined guy, and he, we made our own bench at home, so we bench pressed and pull-ups, and did a push-up challenge and all that. He was always running around, jogging. He's still running the Trait Jonny and stuff. Yeah. I mean, he's super awesome. And then my 2 younger brothers, they started playing football when I started playing football, and so that was fun to kind of grow up with them as well. Mm-hmm. But Felix, my youngest brother, I mean, he's the same age gap to my older brother.
Ah, okay.
So I was kind of in between, and then at some point I was like, man, I actually don't need friends. I mean, there's always guys around, either from Chris or Simon or Felix, just there's always someone, and it's like, hey, can I just invite your friends to my birthday party? That's kind of how it works.
This is so
Yeah, and then but I think also the role for Felix, like being the youngest, it's also not an easy role because I think you kind of live, through your brothers as well. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think he never smoked. He never had alcohol because he knew, like, oh, yeah, there's Johnny smoking, alcohol, gets in trouble. Like, you don't want to do that. Coming home after curfew, no, that's not flying. Yeah. So, I mean, he was super mature, I think, already for, like, at a young age, and probably spent all that time that we wasted on stupid things. He just used it for being productive.
Yeah.
Like, he's super talented in everything and super smart kid, and that's probably, so you read all those books we have and made all the right decisions. But but you also got to make your experiences, and yeah, I just hope we didn't take too many of those away from him.
Yeah.
Being his older brothers, but I think the relationship we have is awesome, and every time we get together, it's awesome. It's a blast. And there's so many stories and situations we can look back, like when we played soccer in the living room.
Probably got. Did you break anything?
Oh yeah.
There's
this one figure that my mom had, like, super expensive, and then I think Chris just told us to stop it and kick the ball away and just. No, it wasn't Chris. Like, somebody kicked the ball and the figure flipped over. The head crushed off, and we put the head back on.
Oh.
And then, like, months later, my mom's, like, dusting off then the head falls off. She's like, boys.
Oh man. This is the big family stuff.
Those are the stories, now that we can laugh about it. Back then it wasn't all that funny, but
yeah, now it's funny.
It's good stuff.
Now it's funny. I just, like, it's so fun to hear that, because I relate to so much of that, so much with growing up with, a bunch of brothers and one sister, an athletic family, and it's just, you get so much from those relationships with your brothers, and it's just like, also when you're thinking, I don't really need friends. I'm always socializing and hanging out with my brothers and the people we have around in orbit, and it's a cool thing basically to have.
Yeah,
to have this.
Absolutely.
What is a quality or trait of yours that you are proud of? Besides discipline, which I'm proud of you for. But what is something, a characteristic of yours, you're like, that's good. That's good. Not everybody has that.
Not a proud person.
Very German. Very German of you.
But I would say having the skill to self-reflect is probably something that I do more than other people do. And which sometimes probably doesn't always make it easier to be around me. Ask my wife. But once you know how the cycle works,
yeah,
it gets a lot easier, and like, I'm just super happy my wife loves me the way I am, and we've just found a way to. I know this sounds super pathetic, but it's still normal.
Yeah.
But just being able to self-reflect, at the end of the day, it's like, hey, what did go well? How could I react differently? And not only live on the negative side of it. It's like, what is something that I did a decent job of, like that needs to be repeated.
Mm-hmm.
And just to be aware of, just to have an awareness of your surroundings or my person in this different surroundings.
This is so good. I love that you said that. That's one of the I think most important qualities for a human to have. And there's like that famous quote. I think it was Socrates. It says, "A life unexamined is not worth living." And so like at the end of the day, you don't examine and look back and reflect on your actions and your behavior and what you said, what I did well, what I need to improve is. And I feel like not so many people have this. I get frustrated a lot seeing the lack of self-reflection, and it's always a quality that I really like and admire.
It's a fine line, though. I mean, if you're too hard on yourself,
right,
and if you're over reflecting, and if you question everything you do, I think it can really limit you.
Yeah.
And you just gotta, at some point, accept that the things that you can control, and other people are tough to control. If they wanna, like, there's like you said. I mean, there's so many times I think, man, don't you think about like how are you perceived by other people?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then also, I mean, you don't want to live a life just being concerned about other people's opinion.
Right.
That's also something that goes into that. I mean, that's why you reflect on yourself, and just so you are aware of, like, this is the person that I want to be. This is the life I want to live. This is how I want to spend my time, because this is the only time I have. And time is the valuable currency in life, because you spend it, you never get it back.
They say money comes and goes, but time never comes back.
That's
right.
right.
That's right. So I appreciate you giving me your time this morning.
It was very important for me to come here, and I wanted to be here.
Yeah.
Although there's a limited time window,
right?
But that's also, I think, something you just got to be able to live with. You know, that's what life is. I mean, you gotta be okay with, hey, I got 30 minutes to do this. Let's do this and enjoy this. And let's not think ahead of, hey, what's coming up next. Like, if we booked a daily spa in the Mavel here in Brownsbach, and we'd be going spend a day in the sauna, and you and me had other stuff on our mind, like that day, it'd be wasted money and time.
Yeah, that's a great point.
It's like, you can, so many people say, man, I want to go to a lonely island, or I want to go to Bahamas or whatever. But if you go there and you take all, your everyday problems with you, it's not going to help you. You're not going to be able to enjoy it. So, so I'm really trying to. I mean, that also comes with coaching. I mean, there's not a lot of minutes a day where you couldn't be doing something, but you also, I don't want to make any one of my loved ones feel like they're in the way of coaching or something. Like, that would be a major sin to me for coaching. Is like, if we didn't have our loved ones, like, why would we do this?
Right.
Like, I know once football's done, our loved ones are still going to be there. So it's not just about winning on the field; it's about winning at home as well. And I think the way you can do it is just, you got to be really, really mindful of your time. And also, like, we may have 15 minutes to have dinner before I have to leave to practice or something, but I want these 15 minutes to be for dinner.
Yeah.
With our son, with my wife, and maybe I'll... No. Those 15 minutes are sacred. I mean, it was really important for me to do this today, because it's just so... vital,
Rejuvenating.
for me to actually talk about like everyday stuff, because I mean it's all skills that you just do every day, and every day can be draining and discouraging, and we all have these demons inside of us, that try to make you go one way or the other, but they all try to distract you from what you actually want to do. So I think
What you're doing,
it's just phenomenal, because if I have time to watch it, it's like I always go away from it and think, man, Nick's just doing such a great job with helping people that may not even,
give back to you or something. Because I mean, you're talking to a camera or something,
and you maybe post something that you don't even know. I mean, you have a big audience, or you see the clicks, but there's a message with every video that maybe it helps someone at a tough spot in their life, and I think that's just outstanding. How long are you going to do this?
Thanks, Johnny. I appreciate that so much. What you just said, like, I think that it's super therapeutic even for me oftentimes, because when I'm doing stuff, when I'm with the camera or something, I never think about how many people are going to see it. I think about I'm talking with one person essentially, and it's also super therapeutic for me, which I was saying off camera, is that it forces me to articulate thoughts and feelings that I may have in my mind that are incomplete, or that I'm filling gaps in my brain, that maybe things aren't totally solidified, and having these conversations or speaking about something on a video forces me to articulate those and complete these connections in my brain to have a cohesive thought. And so it's super therapeutic and rewarding for me, and like to have these conversations also with other people. Like I've learned in these 45 minutes that we've been doing this this morning, I've learned I got 15 nuggets of wisdom that I'm going to steal from you. Thank you very much. I'm going to do this for as long as possible. I love it. I love it so much. It doesn't feel like work, any of the stuff. And that's why I feel super happy that I've got something that I found that doesn't feel like work at all. And it's just fun, and
that's just awesome, man.
Thanks, Coach Brenner. Appreciate that. I wanted to ask one more question. You have recently become a father. Congratulations with this monumental life shift. I want to ask you, how has that changed, or has that changed your perspective on anything, or your attitudes on anything in life?
Yeah, so almost 1.5 years old now is our son. You think you have an idea what it's going to be like being a father. Like, you have no idea. Well, I didn't.
Yeah.
Because it basically changed from the second he was there, and I just loved every second of it. I mean, it's not always easy. I think you just start to blend out some of the tough stretches, which I think's fine, because you want to remember all the good times, and there's so many of them. Like, my phone's full of photos and videos on him and on us, but you also can't capture everything, and you can't keep it forever pinned, locked down, and you just got to soak it in as it happens, because it may be just a smile or something, or like we still look at each other when he's sleeping in between us, and it's just a super satisfying, super feeling to see that little guy sleep there, and all the joy he brings into our life. And it's just phenomenal. And I think just overall, it's just changed my perspective on, like I mentioned, time already. Like, been really appreciative about how I spend my time and who I spend my time with, what I spend my time on. Try not to be on my phone as much, and which is tough because there's an addictive part to it. I mean, but that's part of the self-evaluation sometimes to find ways to also improve on that department, just to make more time and just give attention to. I mean, he grows up so fast; it's unreal. And so, in the blink of an eye, he's walking, and it's just so much fun to see him grow up. And I mean, last night I lay in bed and it's like, oh man, it's just going to be so much fun to see him grow up and, make first friends, explore the world. And I'm so super excited about every day. And I mean, we're not getting a ton of sleep, but but we're still super excited, and that's like so many times in life you don't. If I knew that in advance, hey, you're gonna be sleeping maybe 3-4 hours a night, which is like in season.
That's something new for you.
But you do that throughout the year.
Yeah.
No, just kidding. But maybe you get discouraged or something, but you'll always find a way if you just keep going. And then at some point you're going to reflect and you're going to look back. It's like, man, I have no idea how we got that done, but we got it done. And it was super, super cool. And I feel like super blessed to have him in our lives and I couldn't imagine
so
anything else better.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's just like I mean, of course, I'm not a father, but hope to one day become one. And it's just cool to see the people around me enter that part of their lives. Like recently, you and Cody, and just to see how powerful it is. And it's really, really cool.
And I would say there's a time for everything. I was, although I grew up in a big family, I was never like, I don't want to get married. I don't want to have kids.
Yeah.
But, you never know. And then I met my wife, and then I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to marry there.
Yeah, uh-huh.
And we decided to have kids, and then, boom, there he is. And, and I wouldn't want to trade it for anything. So, I mean, it's like, but we both got to travel the world. We both got to see a lot of places. We both got to see a lot of people, which was also great back then.
Yeah.
And, now it's a different phase in life, and we enjoy it, at the fullest. And that's what it's all about. We only have this one life.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Last question, then I will allow you to go. I am 30. You are around a decade older than me. What advice, from your point of view of life now, would you give to me or to a 30-year-old? Maybe thinking back on to where you were at as a 30-year-old. What can you tell me that you feel like you've maybe figured out in this last decade?
I mean, especially in the last decade, it was more about, I mean, once you're 30, I think you really start enjoying, the adult life with, you're not a trainee anymore, you start being, independent with work financially. And so it opens up some other opportunities or options for you, and really the choice is yours. And so I think at some point sitting down and reflect, like my dad would sit down with us and it's like, hey, what's your 10-year plan going forward? You know, and that's what he would do, and that's what he sometimes would ask us, like, where do you go from here?
Yeah.
And you know, some people are more like, oh, do I need to plan everything out? Am I overscheduling my next 10 years? You know, if you're just driven by a bucket list or something, for me personally, that wouldn't be the life I want to live. Like, I just want to live, and then as long as it feels good, keep doing it. And then but you know, if there's a goal that you work towards then obviously you got to have a plan. But I think you're the best example with Unicorn Town. Is like, you started something and you didn't really know which direction it was going to lead to, and now this went out the roof. So just keep doing what you've been doing. Yeah, and enjoy it. I mean, it's just every day is a gift, and there's no days that are every days. I mean, don't just spend a day to spend it. That's probably my biggest advice, because you don't get them back.
Beautiful. Coach Jonny Brenner, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Nick.
Awesome. Good stuff, Coach. That was beautiful. Oh, that was phenomenal, Johnny.